Welcome to the Care Clinic Pod. I'm Emma, and this is Jones.
Parenting.
Yeah.
And you talk about a crash course in all of the fields, right?
Right.
But now, imagine layering in the complexities of BPD.
Yeah.
That's what we're diving deep into today, folks, with Parenting with BPD, Strategies for Success. This isn't just about the challenges, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's about finding those paths to a stronger parent-child bond, even with the intensity dial turned way up.
Even seeking out information on this topic, it takes a lot of courage. To our listeners out there, please know you are so not alone in this.
I love that. And one thing that really struck me reading this article was how common BPD actually is. It's almost 2% of adults in the U.S.
Right.
That's huge. And yet it still feels like something people don't really talk about, like it's kind of shrouded in misunderstanding.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at its core, BPD affects how you experience and manage emotions. And it's not as simple as just being, quote, too emotional. It's more like you're feeling everything with like this magnified intensity.
Wow.
And often it comes with this deep fear of abandonment, a real shifting sense of self.
I see.
And sadly, that stigma we talked about, that often keeps people from actually reaching out for the help and support that they deserve.
It's like judging someone like, oh, you need glasses, you see differently.
Right.
Instead of realizing that it's just, part of how they experience the world.
Exactly. So then bring that into the world of parenting, right?
Okay.
Imagine you're trying to learn the rules of a game, but those rules, they keep changing.
Oh, wow.
That's what it can feel like for a child growing up with a parent whose own emotional responses might vary from day to day.
That is such a powerful way to put it. And this article talks about symptoms like the fear of abandonment we mentioned, but also up and down relationships, maybe impulsivity. I mean, you can see how those things would make an already tough job, like even tougher.
Absolutely. Think about it. That fear of abandonment could lead a parent to be overly protective, maybe even stifling their child's independence. Or, on the flip side, they might have a really hard time setting healthy boundaries.
Wow.
It's a tightrope walk.
It makes total sense when you think about how important, how central, stable relationships are for a kid's development.
And for the parent's well-being, too. Let's not forget, look, it's not about being this perfect parent. It's about understanding the challenges that BPD brings and finding ways to navigate those effectively. And I think that's a really important point. Having BPD doesn't equal being a bad parent.
Yeah. So how do you find that balance? This article really stresses coping mechanisms. And honestly, self-care is like the first thing to go when I'm like totally frazzled. Anyone else?
Oh, 100%. It's so easy to say take care of yourself. But the reality is when you're a parent, and especially a parent dealing with BPD on top of everything else,
Right.
it can feel like, yeah, right, when.
Exactly.
But this article, it had this analogy and it really stuck with me. It's like that thing they tell you on airplanes. Put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't help your child if you're like gasping for air yourself.
So true. And I used to think self-care, okay, that's bubble baths and like fancy face masks.
Yeah.
This article actually gets into really practical stuff like deep breathing.
Yes. Grounding techniques. And I know, it might sound a little, out there at first, but honestly, they're so effective for managing emotions right when you're feeling them. Think of those intense emotions like a wave, okay? Grounding techniques, they're like dropping anchor so you can ride out the wave without getting totally swept away.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You're basically hitting pause on those overwhelming feelings before like they take over.
Exactly.
And speaking of communication, the article talked about that too, right? Like how you talk to your kids when you're struggling with BPD. And I love that they gave actual examples, not just vague advice.
Oh, yeah, totally. They talk about using I statements, and this can be huge E.
Okay, yeah, tell me more about that.
So instead of saying, you're making me upset, which just makes a kid feel blamed, right? You'd say, I feel frustrated when. It helps your child understand your perspective without feeling attacked.
Oh, that's so smart.
And active listening.
Yeah.
Game changer. Truly tuning in to what your child is saying, reflecting their feelings back.
So important.
It's how you build connection and trust, which is, the foundation of any parent-child relationship, but especially crucial when BPD is part of the picture.
I love that you're like painting this picture for us because I can see how those skills wouldn't just help you as the parent manage your emotions.
Right.
But you'd be equipping your child with healthier communication patterns that they can carry with them, like for life.
Exactly. It's like this ripple effect of positive change that goes way beyond just dealing with the immediate situation.
Yeah.
And that's where things start to feel hopeful,
It's like you're not just surviving BPD as a parent, you're actually like building this toolkit for your whole family to thrive.
Exactly.
But, even with the best tools, sometimes you just need a little backup.
Oh, for sure.
And I thought the article's focus on like seeking professional support, that was really important.
100%. And I think it's important to frame that too. Like getting professional help, that's not a weakness.
Right.
It actually takes incredible strength.
Yeah.
It shows a real commitment to your own well-being and your child's. It's like having a guide, as you're navigating this really complex territory.
I love that. And the good news is there are so many options now. The article mentioned therapy, obviously, and DBT in particular, dialectical behavior therapy.
DBT is amazing. And it's not just sit on this couch and talk about your feelings.
Yeah, it's more than that.
It's about giving you actual skills to manage those really intense emotions, to tolerate distress, to navigate relationships. It's like learning a whole new language.
Wow.
But instead of words, you're learning the language of emotional regulation.
Okay, I love that. That's such a good way to put it. So you're equipping yourself with this whole new set of tools to deal with those core BPD challenges.
Exactly. And while therapy is like super valuable, the article also mentioned medication, right? That for some people, that might be a helpful piece of the puzzle too.
Yeah. And it did stress that any medication should always be under the guidance of a medical professional.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's about finding the right combo of support that works for you.
It is so individual. And, speaking of support, I love that this article didn't just stop at like individual solutions. It talked about creating that supportive home environment, which I thought was really cool.
Right. That's huge. It's recognizing that as a parent, you're not alone in this. Like finding your people, connecting with others who just get IT, that can be so powerful.
Right.
Support groups, online forums.
That feeling of I'm not the only one,
Right. Because even if you're doing the therapy, some days you just need someone who understands exactly what you're going through.
And one thing that really resonated with me was the article's emphasis on consistency and routine, especially for kids.
Oh, that is so key, especially in this context. Because think about it, right? Even if you, as the parent, are having all these emotional ups and downs,
Right.
having that external structure of a routine can be incredibly grounding for a kid. It's like a handrail when the world feels shaky.
It's not even just about like managing your own emotions in that moment. It's about giving your child that sense of security, which they need to thrive.
Yes, it's giving them a sense of predictability when so much else might feel unpredictable.
Exactly. And those small, consistent actions, they add up. They create a more stable, more loving environment for everyone.
And it's celebrating those victories, like acknowledging the effort you're putting in every single day.
I love that. It's that reminder that even though parenting with BPD has its own unique challenges, it doesn't have to be this like all-defining thing.
Right.
You were capable of growth, of building those loving, supportive bonds.
100%. Parenting with BPD may come with challenges, but remember, you are capable of raising a happy, resilient child.
This deep dive has been amazing. It really comes back to those small steps, right? Like they can lead to big changes over time. So here's something to think about. What's one small routine you can commit to this week to bring a little more predictability to your family? Maybe it's a consistent bedtime. Maybe it's family meal prep on Sundays. Whatever it is, you got this. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.